Hello, podcast listener. This is your host with the most, Professor JJ Gordon. If you listened to the last episode, you know that this is a two-parter. We're interviewing a bunch of students at Concordia College in Moorhead, and we get to know them a little bit. We get to talk about the subjects that they have no idea they're going to talk about. It was just a completely blind interview. And then we get to ask them about a podcast that they would like to create, because Tucker and I were invited to present on podcasting to a communications course. I loved doing these. These are probably my favorite episodes of 2023. And I know it's really early in the year, but we've set the bar really, really high. Including in this episode, we talk a little bit of sports. We get to talk about a lot of fantasy type elements. If this is the future of podcasting, we're in good hands with these students. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode recorded at Concordia College. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Episode number 2 with these fine students from Concordia who are all liars. I want to just throw that one out right now. I was promised that this was Wolf Shirt Wednesday, so I went to a gas station.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I bought this undersized wolf t-shirt. And I'm not seeing a single other wolf shirt in here. Beth, would you like to speak for your peers and tell me why I'm the butt of a joke?
Actually, I think this should be your crowning achievement. You are the lone contender. You are the defender of Wolf Shirt Wednesday.
Let me ask you a question. Buying a shirt that's too small for me, what is the appropriate amount of money to spend on this joke?
Listen, it's hard to put a price tag on comedy.
Okay, but I have the price tag right here. So I'm just curious to know what you think.
$15.
$15?
Yeah.
I would have spent $15. This was on sale, $4.99.
Amazing.
Yeah, right?
I am amazed.
Which is why I got the extra big pack of gum, because I had money left over in my budget.
Sure.
Beth, what are you studying here at Concordia?
I am an English and theater arts double major with a minor in art.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what type of art do you like?
I'm actually a costume designer, so it's
Really?
a lot of drawing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to put myself in this mental picture
Sure.
with you get a script and you have to conceptualize what these pieces look like.
Yeah.
What part do you get to do all completely on your own, or do you have to work amongst a group? So it's sort of like art by committee to some extent.
Yes. Is that
Just like do this like maybe
right up here?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, that's
We'll
fine.
cut this out because it's not interesting.
I don't know. I think it's pretty cute, pretty quirky. Yeah, it definitely depends on who your director is, but it's not a solitary activity. It's a lot of guess and check. You draw something and you go, well, is this really what you had in mind? And depending on how concrete your director's vision is.
I do find that to be interesting though, because you think of the painter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who I'm going to express myself on canvas, and this is what I felt, this is what I thought. But when you get into something that has kind of some committee to it, I think that there is something very important that you need to like justify to yourself, right? To say like, listen, this is all steampunk. It's going to be awesome. And no one's ever done this with The Wiz before. And they're like, actually, we want to go a little more traditional with it. And so it breaks your heart and crushes your soul a little bit.
I think you just need to be a little less precious with your art when you're working in a field with other people. And I think that is why a lot of people who do art and are passionate about it can't do it as a career, because doing art for yourself and doing art for a job are different.
Oh, Beth, you're going to go way far. Just so you know, the fact that you have figured that out already, because I know some of the most talented people in my life know nothing about business and they don't want to accept any help with that.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I'm going to rent this gallery space so I can paint all night. And they're like, well, it's $1,200 a month. Are you bringing in $1,200 a month in commissions and things?
Right.
No, but trust me, it'll pay for itself in the long run. Well, did you add the cost of heating and cooling and electricity and your paints and da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they're like, well, okay, would you like fries with that? So it's a hard thing to kind of come up with.
Right.
Is it still okay to say, would you like fries with that?
Yeah. Have you seen it? Have you seen
Are we in that? Because now it seems like with the great resignation, with the quiet quitting and the not so quiet quitting, that, you know, any job is as good as any other job, maybe. That's what I'm suggesting.
You know,
I assume fries should be coming with it. I ask me if I don't want fries. That's what I would say.
would you not like an extra helping of fries
Yeah,
with
there
that,
we
sir?
go.
We don't really have a more modern day, do you want fries with that? And that's because it was looked down as like it's an entry level position and any person can pull fries out of a basket and make that work. Now, unfortunately, I recently invested in a company where a robot does that.
Oh,
Yeah,
lovely.
the robot flips the burgers on the fryer. It pulls the fries out at the appropriate minute. It doesn't need breaks. It works 24/7, and you only need 2 of them to operate a McDonald's full time.
What happens if one of them malfunctions and then you're just like serving raw potatoes?
You still have your manager now is trained in how to service those machines. So rather than having to make a schedule to get all these people to work on time, they're working on like maintenance and upkeep on these like machines. So there's a risk, but the reward is so much higher than the risk that I really think the Flippy is going to be the next big thing in restaurants.
That's
Beth,
so
do you
exciting
think
for you.
that we need universal basic income?
Yes.
I do too.
Full stop.
Because this is what JJ is describing is like a dystopian hellscape.
Yep.
I mean,
It's very Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but like the weird Johnny Depp version, not the fun Jane Wilder one.
Yeah. With Deep Roy, I believe, was played all of the Oompa Loompas. Like
Yeah,
one
yeah,
guy
yeah,
played
yeah.
everything. What kind of a podcast you want to do?
I am very much like an audio drama girly. I want something
nice.
a little bit spooky and like long form narrative. I don't know, maybe something with like fae or ghosts, and that is all the further I have gotten.
I love ghosts.
You know,
So do I. As a concept, very fun.
ghosts, the paranormal in general, is like the 3rd most popular podcast, like genre out there, because I truly believe people like to be frightened.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the response you get involves so much. You know, there's so many chemicals released from your brain when you're frightened with that. And it's even better in this podcast form because you consume it. And what's the first thing you do when you're afraid and you've got this experience? You want to share it with other people because you want to
absolutely.
find out what their experience is with that as well. So being able to put it out there is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So do you want it like how long form of a podcast? Are you looking for just short little stories, like 10 minutes or less? Like, I think Myths was the name of a podcast for a
yeah.
long time that did that.
I mean, yes, 10 minutes is exactly the length I want because that's what is required from the assignment.
Okay. When you're looking at your podcast, it's important to note who's going to be listening to them and how they're going to consume it. So the average American has a commute of 23 minutes. Okay. So 23 minutes means that if I get into my car and I start listening to this podcast, if it's not done in 23 minutes, there's a huge chance I will not go back to that podcast, especially if I'm in the last like 5 minutes of it, let's say. So choosing 10 minutes means that I can get through a podcast of yours, no sweat, make a call to a friend and be like, did you listen to the Beth attack or whatever it happens to be?
Thank you for the title.
There you go.
Using
That's
that.
free for you, right?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Spectacular.
TM. But I think it's important though to think about who your audience is going to be and how they're going to consume that particular thing. Might I also suggest this if this is something you're interested in? A podcast that involves those elements for tabletop gamers where you kind of provide some of the story structure
Oh, absolutely.
would be massive. I mean, and like
spectacular.
look at some of the groups that have got contracts that are on Amazon Prime now and Apple TV and Hulu. So
Yeah.
podcasting is the step that leads you up to, like the big Hollywood dollars.
Absolutely.
And then you design whatever costume you want and tell them, like, take that.
Yeah, I'll just be the entire production team. No sweat.
Yeah. Do you think you could do that one time?
You know what? Yes. Yes, I do.
I love that confidence. Beth, it's been real. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Lone Wolf. I think if we
Right?
hopefully we'll return to Lone Wolf.
I had like 4 shirts to choose from, and this is the one I chose specifically.
It's
I'm telling you, I was looking at Amazon, I was
Yeah.
looking at the prices and delivery dates, and nothing that was like
even close. Yeah.
$5 was gonna get here before.
That's
Right?
You got to go to one of the many gas stations.
Yep. South University Drive, the Cenex. I knew immediately that's where I was going to find one of these babies. And sorry, what's your name?
My name is Vladimir Lin. Just call me Vlad.
Vlad. Okay. Vlad, nice to meet you. Welcome to JJ Meets World.
Nice to be here.
Okay, so you were the first person to arrive last time I was here.
Yeah.
What do
I
you
think
think
today,
that says
too.
about you? Oh,
I was second.
Oh, okay. So you're usually pretty early guy.
I took my time getting over here today. No, I just go to class right across the way, so it's literally just about 30 seconds of walking to get.
this
into this
wolf
building.
shirt I'm wearing. I thought about you when I was buying it, Vlad. Specifically, yes. And this is why. I knew that I'd have to buy it after work. So I left my work. My show gets done at 2:00. I left, had to buy this shirt and then get here. And my thought was, do I have enough time to change out of a long sleeve dress shirt, pop this bad boy on, and then get a sweater vest over it for the reveal before that kid who showed up early gets into the classroom? Because my intention was to change in the classroom. I got here. There's not just you. There were other people in here as well. So I changed next to the custodial door out there. So, Greg, if you get a complaint from Concordia,
Someone saw something.
yeah. Luckily, I'm wearing a shirt underneath this shirt, so I never got right down
It's
to
a
the
real
sizzle.
Superman moment for JJ.
Yeah, this is my chubby Superman moment. Vlad, what are you studying?
I'm a biology and communications double major. I came into Concordia thinking, being a doctor's for me, and then COVID hit, and I just thought, maybe I don't want this to be my future.
We'd learned a lot about the healthcare conglomerate that gets absolutely chewed up and spit out during the pandemic, during this time of the greatest need. So that has kind of pushed you away from the medical field, huh?
Yeah, as much as I'd love to go in and do the good work that they do, I don't want to be the one to have to force the system to change. I think that my time and my enjoyment would be better spent outside doing other things that I enjoy.
Sure. I don't think a lot of people knew what an epidemiologist was before COVID. And I remember on my show, we had an epidemiologist on and he had to explain what he studied. And then before you know it, this guy's on CNN and he's being interviewed all over the place. And all of a sudden that career has skyrocketed. And there was a weird thing done with middle schoolers where they asked what they wanted to be, and epidemiologist showed up on the top 20 list for the first time ever. So not that I'm saying that's what you should do. You do whatever you want to do.
It's funny because I was actually taking a immunology class during COVID. So we were doing little bits of units on epidemiology and stuff. And so, it's definitely something that I'm keeping my eye on.
Cool. Okay, so what part of biology do you like?
I'm pretty big into microbiology.
Okay.
One of the people, Abigail, that you interviewed earlier.
In episode 1. So for those of you listening to episode 2, go back and listen to episode 1 for
Right,
full enjoyment.
AKA the mother sauce.
We actually liked microbiology so much that we did research outside as a little small.
That is so nerdy, and I love it.
Yeah, it was great.
Sounds more like passion than education at one point, right?
Honestly, yeah, no, that's a pretty good way of describing it.
So what about microbiology? I mean, tell me what appeals to you. What sparks something in your brain?
I think,
Literally, how's the science of sparking in my brain work? But no,
What's
I'm
the
just kidding.
chemical?
Yeah.
for me, it's just the how many broad applications this world that we can't even see with our own eyes without the aid of a microscope has. So I mean, it's enough to bring the world to a halt with a pandemic, and can be used to make medicine as well.
Yeah, I am somebody who is so glad that there are people like you in the world who want to study that, because it doesn't mean anything. My knowledge of cells is from when I had to dissect like a maple leaf, maybe in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Wait, did you stop with the leaves, or did you get to the actual like rodents or frogs?
My generation was the first generation in Fargo Public Schools who you could choose to do the computerized version of versus doing the like fetal pig.
Yeah.
And I did the fetal pig because I wasn't going to be the person who's like, oh, look at that guy in the computer lab.
I was 1 year after you, and we didn't give that option. Was that just Fargo South kids?
Probably. Because we were the rich school.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So, yeah, this was a different era of Fargo South, everybody.
Remember, at this
Before
time,
Davies got built.
didn't exist.
Yeah, but I think it's, there are things, in the Mother Sauce episode, we talked about how math isn't for everybody, right? And so microbiology isn't for everybody, but it's for you, which I think is fascinating.
You know what's funny? When I got into here, I had to finish up some physics assignments, so even when I was like listening to, math isn't for me, I was like, wow, I can't say I disagree, and yet I've taken like half of my college education is just filled with math courses. And
Look at the size of that textbook.
it's
What is that? What is that textbook?
that is an entry-level physics textbook.
Physics. Whoa, that thing is a doorstop.
Yeah.
Batman could beat someone with that book.
That thing puts my OChem textbook to shame. And
Are you sure that's not like
scary.
Harry Potter and avoiding Muggle taxes? Like, that's not what that is?
They could have hidden that in there somewhere, and I'd never find it.
Greg and Tucker just made an allusion to Trollwood News at Noon. No, 3,600 seconds. Is that what it was? Yeah. Do you want to tell the joke real quick, Greg? Because I quote that once a year.
Just go ahead.
It was just a skit where someone was going to get beaten with a shillelagh.
And the business end of the shillelagh.
And it said, if you don't do this, my friend here's going to beat you with the business end of a shillelagh. And so we've, ever since that year, which would have been probably 2000, 2001, we've added the business end of something to.
But what's the end of the joke?
What is the business end? And it's whichever end he's beating you with.
Yep.
I just heard someone do one of our favorite joke setups in terms of structures to say, if by this you mean this, then yes, I am. And I just heard someone use that on NPR this last week, and I was so excited because that's one of our favorite setups. Do you have an example, Tucker? Can you think?
The one I thought was Tim. This is so inside baseball for just us now. Real quick, as a divergence from you guys' podcast, Tim Larson was being interviewed about his friendship with you, and he said one time Greg and I went out to Vegas, and when we woke up in the morning, we were married to women. And the interviewer said, "Is that true?" And he said, "Well, if by Vegas you mean Dairy Queen and women you mean blizzards, then yes, it is true." Anyways, what's your podcast, Vlad?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, with that hard 90-degree turn. No, I'm kind of flipping between two. One, which I think a few people here have floated. There's a bunch of people that are interested in D&D, and I'm one of them. And so I'm thinking, okay, I need to make this my own somehow. So I was thinking, instead of like an actual game being played, maybe looking at more creative inspiration, like working through making a character or what is important when designing a story or a setting.
I recently played a paladin for the first time ever, and I had no idea. I had never worked with a character that involved magic. And so I was usually, like a tank or, something like that. And so to me, being able to listen to a podcast where you break down and be like, okay, so you're rolling up a paladin, right? Here are the things where paladins are deficient, blah, blah, blah. That's a brilliant idea for a podcast, especially if you're like, and these are the people you're going to be able to fight. So if your dungeon master loves to put orcs in dungeons, you know that you'll have like an upper hand. What's podcast idea number 2?
Podcast idea number 2 is I started with the name, which was Devil's Advocate, and I tried to think of what would be fun with that. I thought maybe looking at things that are popular in our culture today, like I did a presentation on why coffee is so horrible in persuasive communication in this very room, actually. And so basically just trying to break down all of the reasons why you should feel bad about drinking coffee and how you're a horrible person for partaking and, just looking at things that people don't analyze deeper and
That's a great
trying
idea
to-
too.
trying to swear them off it.
Yeah, and why not? Because the person who loves that is going to listen to your argument, and the person who already hates coffee is going to listen to your argument. And they're both going to have differing opinions, but they both are listening to it for the same reason of like, why do you think coffee is such a joker's drink? And I also just love arguing in general. So you could tell me right now, my favorite, my favorite board game is Monopoly, which is mine, and I'll be like, here's 5 reasons why that's a dumb idea. Because it's just kind of fun to challenge people on some things, right? I love that. Okay, Vlad, it's been real. I want to listen to both those podcasts.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's fine. Who's up?
That
Argumentation.
does not surprise
yeah,
me.
if
Great arguing podcast episode.
Oh, yeah.
devil's advocate. I think Clue is my favorite board game. And
Really?
yeah, Clue. I think it's if you can get if every token is being played by a different individual, you're in a whole other level because
weird,
it takes
'cause
longer.
It says like 3 to 7 players, but you're like, no,
but
no,
really
you need
to
7.
fill it out.
Yeah.
If you can fill it out, and then the Harry Potter version
it's
of
great.
Clue
It's great.
improved by having the room switching thing in the corners, so you can use it. Added additional secret passageways that I'd never seen in the game before, and I loved it. It was super fun. Okay,
Sometimes
I
the
digress.
best board games are improved by IP. Sometimes
Yep.
they're made worse
right,
by IP.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Brendan.
Brendan, nice to meet you. How's it going?
Nice to meet you. Good.
Brendan, you get an award today for the most Phoenix Suns-like outfit in the room. So congratulations.
Thank you.
My
Thank you.
knowledge of sports begins and ends with only like 3 jerseys that I remember, and that is Phoenix Suns colors.
The amount of times that I've actually heard that with this, and I think they're basketball, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have you heard it before though? Did someone say
Yeah, a lot of-
like
yeah.
because the purple and the
Yeah.
orange together? I had a Phoenix Suns when Charles Barkley played on the Phoenix Suns. I had a Barkley shirt, and it was those 2 colors, purple and orange. You don't often see those together outside of Phoenix
Well,
Suns apparel.
Thank you, Nike,
Yeah. There you go.
for this.
But I like it. I'm a big
Thank you.
fan of bold color, and you wouldn't guess that from my black on brown that I'm wearing today. But I love a bold color. Did you choose that specifically, or was that a gift?
I bought this. Yes,
You bought this?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what you thought of when you bought that.
I found it and said I don't need that, and then I said actually yeah I do. So then I bought it, and I have a bad shopping problem. So
Bad or
No bad.
or healthy
No,
for some
not
other way?
healthy.
No,
But
it's a bad.
you're talking like retail therapy. Like you go and you're just like,
That
I
and,
need
like-
that. I want that. I'm gonna have that.
and then it's like as soon as I started like making money, I was like, oh, buy a car.
More things to buy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So you actually fall pretty close to your generation, which is 2 generations behind you. They saved everything, right? So they saved bread bags and they put it on their feet so that when they walked in areas where there are puddles, their feet wouldn't actually get wet. That's a legit story. I heard this last week from someone who was born in 1930.
No.
Yeah, a legit story. And then, your parents' generation comes around and they start making significantly more money than anyone else did because of things like, trickle down economics, which did not work, but did reward some.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden your generation pops up and you've got the ability to say like, listen, you're not thinking about your future right now, right?
Mm-mm.
No, you're thinking about right now and what you want to own. And that thing makes me happy when I buy it.
I went home on Monday, and my bank teller told me that if I pull out 55 more cents out of my savings account, that it will close. So I've hit the bare minimum.
Did you, and you left it in there?
Oh yeah.
Good move.
So I said, huh?
I mean, there you go.
Making
You made the
interest,
right decision.
making interest.
Yeah, you. That compound interest. That's where they get you. What are you studying at Concordia?
Communications, and then I have a minor in
Economics.
business management.
Business.
You want me to manage your business.
Yeah, I do. I do. You know what? Because I want someone who's not going to tell me like, you do not need monogram towels. I want someone who's like, you need monogram towels in every bathroom in your home.
Yeah. If it
Right?
looks good.
Yeah.
Look good,
And
feel good.
You know what's great about business manager? You're not even spending your money. You're spending other people's money.
Ooh.
Down the road, it
Yeah.
would be mine though. So that's.
Oh, 20% of their money, but you already collect that before they give it.
Well, I want to like own things. So
Like
that-
what?
Funeral homes.
Funeral homes?
It's a great
I
idea.
saw, and tell us a little bit more about this funeral home interest that you have, because your profile photo is staged in front of a hearse.
Yeah,
Is that right?
I took my senior pictures in a cemetery with the hearse.
Love it.
And
Tell
I
us
also
about it.
proposed to my prom date with the hearse.
That's awesome.
And a casket.
Were you in the casket? Did
no,
you rise out of it?
I did not.
Have you ever been in a casket that's been shut?
Legally,
You're not allowed?
No.
It's all right. Don't worry. No one's listening to this podcast who's going to peach on you.
I like that caveat. Legally.
It's one of my bucket list items. So at one point, I mean, I want to be cremated, not buried in a coffin. But it is to me
That
one
is a
of the
tough choice.
scariest things that you can ever do is put yourself in a coffin and shut it, because
well, it doesn't lock unless you.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What if that's the international symbol to the great beyond that you're ready to go?
Then I guess it's my time. I'm ready.
It is, right? Like,
yeah.
you didn't plan that.
Yeah.
We had a previous guest on JJ Meets World is Alex Rydell, who is the president of the North Dakota Funeral Home Directors Association.
My boss back home is the president of the Minnesota Funeral Directors
See, there you go.
Association.
It was one of the most fascinating conversations we've ever had, because this person deals with people at one of the most vulnerable points in their life, where they are mourning. They don't know what this goes on. If you're good at planning funerals as a private citizen, you've had a lot of tragedy in your life, you know? So getting to this point, I think, was so interesting. And Alex takes it so incredibly serious, as you absolutely should. But he knows, like, listen, this time of mourning doesn't have to be all sadness. You know, this can be celebration. It can be joy. He plays violin at some of these funerals, and the dude's amazing. So tell me why you want to, like, why this is something that fascinates you.
So my dad's family owns funeral homes. So I've been around it my entire life. It was my first job. I have been in it. I actually just, as of August, I'm no longer in it, because after the pandemic and everything, I'm burnt out. So now I'm bartending. But I think it's so rewarding to help someone out in arguably the worst spot in their life to regain some sort of normalcy and move on with their life, and just show that it's so rewarding being a part of it. So
I mean, it really is. You're saying all the things I would imagine someone who is passionate about it, because
and I want to put the fun in funeral.
Fun and funeral. Too bad your name isn't Al. I put the fun in Al in funeral. The only thing I don't have is the So this has been something that's been a big part of your life at this point. And so did kids ever look at you differently, or were people ever like, well, there goes the weirdo with a funeral home?
I mean, probably, but it doesn't really matter. God, I get paid to drive around in a Cadillac and a suit. Like, who's winning?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? If you're in a room with people and you're having icebreakers and they're like, I'm with accounts payable, I'm with this, and be like, I bury people for a living. And you're like, hello. So what's your podcast going to be about?
Okay, so there's like 4 things. I don't know.
Tell me the third one.
The third one is something to do with like gay culture and pop culture, so gay culture. And I don't know. And then also just some like, I don't know, music stuff, like reviewing albums. Music's like my favorite thing. So reviewing new releases coming out.
Big and small, I assume?
Yes. But the pop culture one would be funny, I think. And also I want to do something with how shitty politicians are, because I mean, you could have one podcast that's done in 15-minute segments, and each segment is a different part of what your ideas are, and you would become the most well-rounded human being after listening to all 4 sections, right? Maybe. I don't know. I have no clue how any of this works.
Oh, well, you're
I'm
experiencing
learning.
it right
I'm
now.
learning.
It's fun, and I can tell that you're somebody who's got a rich and diverse enough background that there's nothing anyone's going to say during an interview that's going to throw you, right? Like, you want to hear their stories. Am I right?
Well, yeah.
Unless,
yeah.
you know-
I'm not gonna lie. I thought you meant interview with like a job, and I was like, well, do we have a story for that?
Oh, you got a job interview story?
Yeah. On Monday, I had Monday I had a job interview for Crooked Media. So they put on Pod Save America and all that those big ones.
This is the one based in Los Angeles.
Out in LA. And I had a phone interview with one of the producers, and he answered the phone. He was like, "Hi, is this Brendan?" I said, "Yes." "Is this Brian?" And it went silent, and I didn't know what to do. I froze up and said, "So, what do you want to talk about?"
Why did it go silent?
I don't know. I was very confused. So
May have hit the mute button. You never know.
yeah, maybe.
Right?
So he could have. And then he was like, I don't know. What do you want to know? And I was like, okay, well, this is going
Can I
swimmingly.
call you back and we can start this over
literally.
again? Would that be all right with you if we just go from the start again? Well, I hope that you hear back from them eventually and they're like, listen, that was so awkward. We want to give you a podcast. And we want you to do whatever you want.
He flagged my resume and application, so I have another one. So that's good.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
On to the next round.
Yeah.
Well done. See, what do you want to talk about? That's a great interview question to start off with there. He knows you've got the chops. Thank you very much, Brendan.
Thank you.
You know, he mentioned politicians. Bad Lip Reading just released an amazing 15-minute rendition of the House of Representatives with all the recent footage from the House Speaker fight and stuff. So if you haven't seen that, check that one out. It's awesome.
Will do. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey.
What's your name?
My name is Haley.
Haley, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
What type of those Adidas?
Yeah,
they
they
are.
are.
Adidas. Do you like those shoes?
Same.
Oh, it's
Oh,
the
yeah.
same with Greg too.
Signature shoe.
Oh, twinsies.
Mine are. Hold on. Are they?
Ske-
You gotta take them off to look. Yes, they're Skechers. They're memory foam. That's how you can tell I'm old.
Oh, that's okay. We can change you.
That's
You
all
gotta
right.
Yeah.
I bought gray mesh shoes, thinking like these look awesome, and they're the ugliest shoes I've ever seen in my life. They don't go with any pants.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean,
Huh.
look at them. I'm wearing these like khakis
Yeah.
with gray shoes. But
don't know.
I'm married, so I'm not worried animore about attracting a
Oh.
mate, about finding someone who can accept me for me. She's stuck with me at this point. So
Well, lucky her. And the wolf shirt.
And a
So-
lone wolf.
when I wear this into the house today, she's gonna tell me to take it off right now, and not in the kind of like, you know, ooh, it's almost Valentine's Day way.
Yeah.
In the if you don't take that off and burn it in the garage, you're not allowed into this house.
So you're allowed with the gray shoes, but not the wolf shirt.
Because I'm allowed so much, right? Because
Yeah.
at one point you can fill a cup up to the point where it's
Yeah.
full, just not spilling over. And I've done that to my wife. I've filled the cup to too full. What are you studying here?
Theater, and I have a minor in psychology.
Okay, those are
Yeah.
interesting things to blend together, huh?
Sure are.
What was the last show that you did?
The last show that I did was I directed a 10-minute scene with a local theater company called Hope Springs a Turtle. And then before that, at Concordia, I stage managed and assistant directed War of the Worlds.
Oh, which we played on KFGO. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun to. That was a fun experience for me to come to as like an audience member.
Yeah.
And then it was fun to play it back. I don't know if you guys heard the story, but we got a call during War of the Worlds while we were playing
did?
that.
It worked?
And someone said, my husband just called and said, "Is this thing on KFGO real?" And so at least one person in this community fell for it.
Good.
Totally.
That was our goal.
Yeah, mission accomplished. And enough to warrant a call from his spouse,
Oh, love that.
right?
Yeah.
And so it was pretty good. Okay, so this 10-minute thing that you directed, right?
Yeah.
Was it for FMCT, for
Yes,
the
it
10-minute
was.
play festival?
Yes.
Okay, so what was the premise of the scene?
Okay, it's a little darker, but it is about a young adult who is in a mental health facility after trying to commit suicide, and their conversation with a psychologist with kind of a more quirkier viewpoint on life. And the doctor decides to do healing via the power of fake animals. So, like, for the young adult, she was like, here's this fake turtle, and the fake turtle represents you. And Yeah.
So I guess so. At first, I thought you had just mumbled your way through the word eternal, but hope springs a turtle,
Yeah. Hope springs a turtle.
not hope
yes.
springs eternal.
Yes.
No, that was
Sorry.
the legit. I mean, that wasn't a mumble.
I'm
No.
glad I didn't just straight up call you out on that.
No,
And
no.
then be like, well, actually, sir.
Yeah.
Did you choose that particular piece, or was it
Yeah.
assigned to you?
Yeah, so a bunch of people throughout the country and local writers submitted shows into their email or whatever, and then they picked 24 of them, and then there were 12 directors. So from the 12 of us, we got to pick one of them, and that's the one that I picked.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, and well received. I heard that the festival was great.
yeah,
People really loved it.
yeah. No, I think that it went well. I'm really proud of my show, and I hope that people liked it. Yeah.
You know, I think is really interesting about FMCT's current journey is after their theater had its devastating crack that made their theater inoperable. They're like, well, what are we going to do now? And so all of a sudden these places started opening up, and they started using spots that you'd never imagine as theater spaces. You know, the spot that they have in the Moorhead Center Mall used to be a gun store. And like now it's a place where they teach kids like theater skills, and they mount small productions. They use the Yemcom Center, which is a museum by heart. That's where I used to go see animatronic dinosaurs when I was younger, right? And then the first time I walked in there, I was amazed at how they had transformed it into a legitimate theater space.
Yeah, and that's where we had the show, and I've never been in that space, so it was really funny to like have the actors on stage, and then from the stage point of view, you saw the boat, and it was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. For you, a podcast, I imagine with a little bit of theatricality, you understand what it takes to draw people in, right? It's not well, I mean, you can't just immediately start something and it can't be dry, right? Like you got to have something to hook people in that first couple moments of the podcast. What kind of a podcast do you want to do?
Oh, you shouldn't have set me up like that, because I'm about to give you a very boring
Good,
answer.
good.
I think that I want to do something where I talk to people that have influenced me throughout my life. So like my art teacher, who is a refugee from Madagascar, who also smokes banana peels, or my old English teacher who used to be a sex worker, and like just kind of talk to the people throughout my life.
It's so boring. These are just things nobody cares about.
Well, I mean, I think that open up any sort of podcast app, and it's people talking to each other. We're doing that right now. So I mean, there's been people being like, I'm going to do a D&D thing and a ghost thing, and I'm just like, oh no, I want to talk to someone.
But you're kind of alluding to the fact that these people had a huge influence on your life. I love mentorship. I think a lot about mentorship because there's good research to suggest that you should be mentored throughout your life, and you should be a mentor at some point in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that everybody is just a accumulation of the people that they meet in their life. So, everything that I do, not everything that I do and say, but like a lot of my personality is from the people that I meet. I mean, even being in one of your classes, I got back into movies because like I kind of had a rut of not really being into movies, and now I'm like, oh yeah. So
You'll find too throughout the rest of your academic career at Concordia and other people you meet that the students of Greg Carlson have a lot of similar personality traits that you can kind of I can tell this person was taught by Greg.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you'll see his level of enthusiasm for the topic sort of reflected in it. Me and JJ and Toby Jones and a bunch of people who are all kind of the acolytes of Greg Carlson all have kind of that very same, basically the same response that you just kind of gave to have that.
Yeah.
So just wanted to point that piece out, especially since, Greg's talking about mentorship as it was with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greg was also I walked in here the other day talking about like, okay, so the kids I taught now have kids who are sending their kids, to me. And so I think that's incredibly important. That story that you can get from the people who helped, change your life is incredible. So it's not boring. Like you got it right there. We're drawn in immediately. So, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
50 years old. I was born in 1972. So, well, I started teaching at Concordia in 2001. So, that's 22 years ago now, this upcoming. So it's possible that the students I had my first year here, and I was teaching before that at MSUM. So I've been teaching in a college classroom since 97.
How old were you when you taught?
99.
That was in 99. So, yeah. So I was in my late 20s. Yeah.
I really thought you were
Like I remember when he and his wife were courting.
Yeah.
And so he'd be teaching Trollwood News at noon in the summertime, and then Katie would come over, and so we would all go, well, now it's time to ask Greg for soda money because his girlfriend is here.
I couldn't look cheap, I had to like cough up. Hey, sure, here's some money, kids. Go get some Cokes. Get some Dr. Peppers.
There's nothing better than being around people like when they're courting, right? Like, especially when they're not your friends, like when there's someone who's got some slight authority over you because you're watching them be like, oh, so you don't have the power anymore. I see how it goes. What's your name?
My name's Austin.
Austin, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Austin, have you been to Austin, Texas before?
I have not.
It's awesome.
It is.
Yeah, like it is one of my favorite cities on the planet. And being the fact that your name is Austin as well, you kind of get ownership of the town. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, a little bit. I get that question a lot. Austin, Texas, but I don't know. I think I like Houston a little better. I don't know.
Really?
Is that a hot take?
Yeah,
Might
it is
be
a hot take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
No, I meant San Antonio because the Spurs.
Oh, sure.
They were pretty good when I was growing up. So.
And they got
Black
the
and
Riverwalk.
silver.
Yes.
Black and silver.
Yep. Raiders fan too. So, but
Oh boy,
no
and
need
that's
to talk about that one.
football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are those different?
I had actually, the three of us have a friend who was obsessed with the Raiders and knew nothing about them whatsoever. But because his dad was obsessed with the Raiders, he really pretended. He had a lot of his life where he's constantly trying to impress his dad. So he's like, hey, listen, I love the Raiders. Really? Why? Hey, I love Harley Davidson. Do you really? Hey, I love construction. No, you don't. It was Dustin Buchanan, by the way. So if you can imagine Dustin Buchanan walking around with a Raiders shirt.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're not here to talk about Dustin, but a person who could absorb a lot, he was a sponge.
Yeah.
He was a sponge.
There are some people that you'll meet in your life who the more that you gravitate towards them, the more they start to pick up, the more you start to pick up like their mannerisms and not just agreeing with them to agree with them, but like, you're like, God, they're so passionate about this. I want to be passionate about it too.
Right.
You might be a good person to ask this question then too. Sure. Of I'm actually very unaware right now of what sports is like in the podcasting space. A good friend of ours is actually on the co-host of the leading podcast for the Detroit Lions right now. And so I'm starting to learn more about that world. And so, I mean, do you consume sports podcasts at all or anything like that?
I'm more of like a video, so I'll watch it on YouTube, but like they're still talking and they have like the clips as well because sports. But not really. Yeah.
Austin, you compete as a wrestler, is that right?
Yeah.
Do you do any other sports?
No.
How did you land upon wrestling as something you've continued into a college?
Yeah. Actually, I hated wrestling as a kid. I was like, this is not fun. I mean, you're physically like hurting people. I don't know, and that's something I kind of struggled with as well in college. It's like you have to have this like kind of mindset, like kind of egotistical mindset, if you will, because you're out there by yourself. And you want to beat the other guy, like physically. So I kind of got into it because my uncle won a state championship, and my mom was like, "Oh, you gotta go back into it." So I went back into it, and I wasn't very good. I was doing okay. I kind of struggled with the whole physicality of it because I'm not really that physical of a person. But by the time I hit my senior year, I took second at state. So, and then Concordia happened, and I wanted to leave my hometown of Montana and kind of get out and do my own thing. So.
I mean, wrestling is widely considered one of the most physically arduous sports to engage in. And in, say, like the mixed martial arts world or combat sports, and actually just yesterday I was watching some people pontificate about this on the internet, that American-style wrestling is actually considered one of, if not the most effective combat sports to learn as a mode of self-defense. They were going, of all the different things you could try to learn and all the things you could go take, where would you rank them? And American-style wrestling and catch wrestling were at the very, very top, even above Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay. So just the fact that you said you took second,
yeah,
that's insane. Congratulations, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, everyone's like if you got in a fight, what's the first thing you would do? And I'm like, I'd grab their legs. Like I wouldn't try to throw a fist, I don't think, just because that's 50-50 shot. Where if I can get them to the ground and start working, and they get confused, and so. But I'm not really in fights outside of school. So.
Yay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for
Thanks for
clarifying that.
clarifying. Yeah.
When I was a senior in high school, I spent one night doing basement boxing at a party. And they didn't have, like, this is before, like, everyone had a cell phone. And so they used the microwave that was down there that this guy's dad used to, like, pop popcorn in. And so they would put 90 seconds on the microwave. And then when you heard the bing, it was done. And the move I made was swinging my arms, and I called it the windmill. And so my hope was that I just connect once on this, right? And then I've got long enough reach that I was like, I'll just keep you at bay, right? Sure. Movies lied to me about how boxing is easy, and all I have to do is just use mass against energy. That's not true at all.
No.
So when you're wrestling, right? Okay. So how do you pump yourself up? Because you are right. It's a single person going out there, right? You're not out there with the whole team. It's just you and your opponent on the mat.
Right. Halloween soundtrack. John Carpenter.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah. That's Kobe Bryant. That I got that one from. That one works. That one works really good. Stone Cold Killer. Yeah.
Really?
That's why I'm Austin 316. Actually. That's actually true.
Different kind of wrestling, but also awesome.
Yes. So I mean, I guess it's always kind of been there. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so let's talk. It's not a wrestling podcast, right? That's not what you're thinking about. What do you think
like
about?
it should be now.
Well, now I'm kind of convinced. I'm actually like not like a movie nerd, but if I am like horror, love horror.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so fluid.
Yeah.
It's like comedy, like it's subjective.
Yep.
You know, what is scary to people. But I'm also super into video games and like complete completion of video games.
Oh, me too, brother.
And speed running. So like I'm really into platinum trophies. I got like probably 4 last month. It was bad. It was a bad month, but
And by bad, you mean you spent a lot of time doing this.
Yes.
A previous podcast guest on JJ Meets World told me that in 8 hours he beat The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past with every heart piece, everything. And I'm like, you're a liar. I know that you do not have that skill set. I know you are a liar. And he goes, I did it. I promise you. And I was like, I don't believe you. And ever since then, it's had a real like crack in our friendship. It's been tough. And you know, you talk about you like the horror genre when it comes to movies. We're living in a golden age of modern horror right now. Because for a long time it was just slasher, and then we got into gore. But now we've got some real psychological stuff. I don't like scary movies. And not that I dislike the genre. I've got a real respect for it. I've seen all of the Child's Play movies like a dozen times a piece.
Sure.
I get too scared. I get too invested in what's going on, and it terrifies me. I am part of a scary movie club where we go out to scary movies together, like as a group. And like, I don't know what I think about this Scream 6. Saw that it's going to be released in 3D for Scream in 3D. I just don't get it. Like every time they like, and it's in New York. It didn't work with Jason. It's not going to work with this.
Manhattan. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But
what's your favorite scary movie franchise all time?
All time. Favorite scary movies. God, put me on the spot. I'm fascinated by Jordan Peele's little trilogy he's got going on. I thought Nope was kind of slept on.
I agree. It's brilliant.
It's a great movie.
Brilliant.
It's literally the first half is a reflection of the second half, and each watch I catch a new thing, and I watch it probably 5 times.
What do you think about Nope, JJ?
Oh, it's a big nope for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
When I saw it, I was I was immediately put off the spot because there were shorts that aired before the movie, like before they even do the introduction of like Greg Marcus and stuff.
Sure.
So my wife and I walk in opening weekend, and there's a movie playing on the screen, but all the lights are on, and we're like, did it start early? Like, oh my gosh. And so we get into our seat, and we're halfway through this short. I had no idea what's going on. There's a ton of, so I turn around the corner, there's a ton of people in there, and I was off put. We sat down, and then other people kept coming in, having the same reaction I did, of like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So finally, I would go over, and I'm like, this isn't the movie yet. This isn't it yet. This isn't it yet. And so because we had this weird opening to it, I felt off put the whole time. And I'm like, did you just ruin this for me? But I did not care for it that much.
Okay.
You know, but it's all right. Teach their own, right?
Yeah.
I also didn't like Hereditary. So if you like that one. Okay, good.
No, it's great. Slept on. We'll go Leprechaun. That's the best series.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
We go.
love that
Set
little
in
shit.
North Dakota.
Yeah.
That first one, at least.
We got what's her name? Gosh.
Jennifer Aniston.
Aniston.
Yep.
Debut. Yeah, can't go wrong.
Okay. Thank you very much. I look forward to listening to your podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
For me, when it comes to horror, it's all about the universal monsters. That's what I'm all
The
about.
like the
The
original
Dracula,
like,
the CFB Lagoon, the Frankenstein, the Mummy. That's where my core horror comes from. And then anything outside of that, I'll do. But I'm not really into the slasher stuff.
This is a suggestion for everyone. If you've never seen the movie Monster Squad, one of the best like genre mixing films I think of all time. And there's a character in it named Fat Kid that I identified with my entire childhood. That's his character name. You just don't do that
Different-
anymore.
No, different time, different era.
Hello, what's your name?
Yoselin.
Yoselin? Nice to meet you, Yoselin. So what are you taking at Concordia?
I'm a communications major and a business minor.
Business minor. What's your favorite class you've taken so far?
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't even have to be in your major, so don't worry. I'm not going to tell anybody.
I don't know. I like a lot of them, but I feel like Greg's classes are pretty chill. He's like film.
You're in another one right now.
Yeah.
What have you seen in that one that
The
has
one
been memorable? Yeah, so far. Because we watched a really creepy, unsettling horror movie in that class already, Under the Skin,
Oh,
I think
which sets a lot of people off.
I already forgot like the majority of the movies that we
What?
watched.
There's
but
a
I think,
test tomorrow.
I know. It'll come back to me. But yeah, I
just
think
watch
that
the
one was a
trailer on
good one.
YouTube and you'll get the gist of it and what's going on. Do you like school?
I do.
Yeah. Do you like the act of learning?
I don't know about that, but I like stuff like this where we get to like engage, you know.
You want to know something that's sad going forward is this does not happen in the majority of the rest of the world. Like the ability to like sit around and create. In fact, a lot of different places will discipline you for creativity. And so enjoy this time while you've got it. Because I think a lot of people look back and say like, listen, I wish I would have given more to this experience. I wish I would have gone out and done more things that are only available to you when you're a student. I wish I would have worked harder in a particular class to get more out of it. And I think there's a reason why people in like why educational series for adults are having such a moment is because people like internally want to learn about stuff, right? So a person sees a screw in a board and it's got a Phillips head, which is just, like the X on it, and say like, I know that there's other screw heads out there. And you just ask yourself, well, I wonder why. And you might not ever like look for that answer, but you might look for that answer. And I think that is just kind of that human nature is to want to know why. I heard something really interesting recently that Ricky Gervais said where he was talking with Stephen Colbert about science and religion. And he goes, so if you destroyed every text that human beings had ever known and everyone got amnesia, in 1,000 years' time, science books would rebuild the facts up. But what would our religious background and faith background be after that? Would we come up with the same thing or would we change it? And I was like, oh man, Ricky Gervais, why are you throwing that out on a CBS nighttime talk show that nobody's watching? I watched on Hulu. Do you ever think about like that 1,000 years in the future?
I mean, I don't know. Not really.
Not really?
I kind of like to live in the present.
Okay. Why do you like to live in the present?
Because, I don't know, you're like making choices. I don't
But you must think a little bit about the future.
Yeah.
You think about the
But
past
not
as
too
much
far,
as
not 1,000 years.
No,
you know?
no. But I mean, do you think about the? I spend a lot of time thinking about the past. The older you get, you're reflecting on. The older you get, sadly, you lose more and more people that are important to you. I was lucky to make it well into my 20s, I think, before I had attended more than just a couple of funerals. And now, at the age of 50, I attend funerals all the time, and so I think about mortality somewhat. Do you? And I love spending time in the past because I'm constantly trying to recapture my childhood. It's all I do every day is when you're talking to me, when everybody's talking to me in class, I'm thinking, how can I connect this to my childhood?
This is so crazy because I was just talking to my friends about this. My friends in this book club reading a book where this girl like dies, and when there's like this little space between life and death, where it's like a library, and you get to read all the different lives that you could have lived.
Ooh,
And
Like it.
yeah, and you get to take the time to read and see all the different lives that you could have lived, and if you liked any of them, you get to like jump into that life. But if you didn't like any of the versions of your life, you kind of just die.
There's a book you and your friend should maybe read called Lincoln in the Bardo, which was one that was recommended to me by Greg. It's the best book I've read as an adult. And when you said that space between life and death, it made me think of that. They refer to the Bardo as sort of that purgatory or that sort of in-between place. So are stories like that, if they have interest of you, anything that's like ghost stories or history stories like that?
I mean, I've never heard anything like that. We were just talking about it because she's in a book club, and I was like, wow.
It's the kind of book that I would recommend to absolutely anyone, including people in a book club. What do you yourself do any podcast listening? Are you consuming podcasts? Or if not, what would you say is sort of the type of media that you like to consume most often?
I actually don't listen to any podcasts, unfortunately.
That's not bad at all. That's good, though.
Yeah, this conversation took like a whole different turn than I thought it was going to be, because I was like, my what I plan on doing was like pop culture and like, you know, just talking to people about like our lives and what's happening in the world.
So is that what your podcast is going to be, pop culture based, or is it going to be interview based and letting people share their stories?
More just like chit-chatting, like opinions. And
here's something that I tell guests all the time. I can't tell you the number of people that are like, oh, why would you want to talk to me? I'm boring. I don't have anything. Every person has a story, and even though you might not think it's engaging, you'd be shocked to find out how engaging it actually is to somebody. And so just scratching away at the surface a little bit, you know, there's something there. And so you'll be interested. Like chit-chat can lead to some really deep conversations.
Oh,
yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I still routinely turn to page 18 and read the very last paragraph of that chapter where they refer to the dresses being museum packed.
Yeah, it's such a quotable book. I've been through it now. I don't know how many times you've been through it. Twice, yeah. And I did buy the audio book. It was purchased by the rights to Lincoln in the Bardo were purchased by Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally. So the audio book version has Rainn Wilson and Don Cheadle and all these well-known actors, as well as the author George Saunders, doing because it's like a play. So there's all these different voices, but they also own the film rights. So Tucker and I have had a conversation imagining how could they possibly make a movie out of this. Anyway, Lincoln in the Bardo. Everyone should read that. Okay, let's
I have
roll.
it on my bookshelf to look intelligent, but I have not read it yet.
I don't know if anybody's interested, but I'm pretty sure the book that she was talking about previously is The Midnight Library.
Is that right?
Thank you very much. The Midnight
Jocelyn?
Library, does that sound right?
Cool. Midnight Library.
What's your name?
Alyssa.
Alyssa. Good fact right off the bat. Have you read that book?
I actually have not, but I'm on the space of book talk, so it was really popping on there a couple months ago.
Okay. I have in the last 3 years consumed more books via audio book, so audible.com, than ever before. And I found that I fill my space during my day when I'm on the treadmill. If I'm just, driving around town running errands, I'm listening to an audio book. And I reread a book that is assigned mostly to fifth graders called Hatchet by Gary Paulson.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one of the best books I have ever read. And I remember loving it as a kid, and now I love it as an adult. But it's just throwing it out there. So what are you studying?
I'm double majoring in English literature and multimedia journalism.
Oh, okay. Okay, so how do those two things bleed together? How have you found a connection?
Well, after I graduate, I want to work in the publishing industry. So, about a year into my time at Concordia, I had a lot of credits coming in from high school, and I was like, I need to figure out something to earn credits towards instead of just taking a bunch of classes with no purpose. So I actually wanted to add English writing, but then they told me you can't do that because there's too much overlap between English literature and English writing. So I was like, okay, well, what else has writing components in it and also English stuff that I would enjoy? And I just fell upon multimedia journalism.
Sure, why not, right? how often do you get into a book and then decide you're not going to finish it?
I actually have a really hard time not finishing books.
Me too.
Because,
Same.
yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I get like 20% in, which I know isn't really that far, but I'm like, if I've made it 20%, I'm finishing it. Or like if I really hate a book, I'm like, I hate this so much, I want to finish it and write a review. Because I'm
Yeah,
a believer
yes.
that you shouldn't write reviews about books that you
Yes.
didn't finish.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agree. I do.
So,
I agree
okay,
too.
here's an interesting fact I learned from a podcast I love called The Tobolowsky Files, hosted by Stephen Tobolowsky, who's a character actor from Groundhog Day,
Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct. Yeah, I was also going to say, what's the Sneakers, a great
Right,
spy movie
yes.
if you've never seen it.
Yep.
And
The
so
Goldbergs.
the principal in Goldbergs, right? So he sat on a number of Academy screening committees, and he goes, "You are only required to watch 80% of a movie to be able to vote on it." And so people figure out, okay, this movie's 157 minutes long, 80% would be this many minutes. And he goes, "You'd be shocked how many people at that exact time get up and walk out of the theater."
But sometimes the ending ruins everything that's been building up the entire
Or
time.
vice versa, or
Yeah.
the payoff in that last 20% makes this movie that you slogged through worth it to some extent, right?
Yeah.
So, and he talks about how disgusted he is by other members who get up and leave like that. It's just insane. What's your something you've read recently that you just said like, oh, more people should know about this?
Well, I actually think a lot of people do know about this, but I'm just going to plug it anyway. Happy Place by Emily Henry comes out in April of this year, and I was emotionally devastated after I finished that book.
Really?
Yeah. It is like, it's filed under the romance genre, but it's kind of more just like literary fiction with a little bit of a focus on romance. But yeah, that book specifically talks a lot about like mental health issues, depression, feeling unworthy or like unlovable to the people around you, deals with family dynamics and losing friend groups as you age up and like graduate college and stuff. So
I'm a firm believer in that we need to relook at how we categorize genres, because there are things that I guess on paper would fit into a genre, but don't really meet all the requirements of that, which I think is interesting. What podcast do you want to make?
I'm planning on doing something that ties fictional characters in with like Taylor Swift songs. So I would do like a Taylor Swift song that represents a fictional character and like why I decided on that song.
Oh, nice. So like Hermione Granger goes along with this.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the type of thing.
That's a great idea.
It is like you are going to have like BuzzFeed is going to love that podcast big
Yeah.
time. So, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna make it. Here comes Maggie.
We're going to make it. We're going to make it. Maggie, welcome to JJ Meets World.
Thank you.
So, what are you studying at Concordia?
I am a multimedia journalism major.
Okay. So, multimedia, what does that mean?
All the media.
All the media. Multiples.
Multiples of the
Uh-huh.
media.
Yes.
I think
That's
it's
a good answer.
Sometimes when people ask that question, because so I've got two people on the news team at KFGO who are multimedia journalists, right? And I'm like, so what does that mean? And they look at me and they give me the same answer. They're like, it's a bunch of things that we're kind of tying together. And I was like, okay, I understand. I get
think
where
it
you're coming from.
exists to distinguish it from the old media, legacy media, just if you're one thing like print, because that doesn't really, even people, my friend John Lamb, I talked to him yesterday, working at the Forum, he's primarily a writer, but he also has to be aware of how these stories might blend into radio, into video, etc.
Podcasting
Yeah,
even
yes.
and like how the podcasting world fits into the journalism world, right? So to me, when you approach a podcast and say like, listen, I'm going to bring not an opinion piece to this, but I'm going to bring fact to it. And I'm going to lay out something that would be, a 60 minutes news piece, but in a podcast format. I love that. I dig it. You know what they don't do enough in like those kind of journalistic podcasts though?
What?
Cite resources. And that drives me up the wall sometimes because I'll get really deep into something and they won't give any resources. And I'll think, are you totally full of it? Did you actually do any work on this? And that's the nice thing about podcasts is since they're completely and totally not under the thumb of any authority, people can go on there and tell
I've
whatever
got
they
two
want.
statistics that I feel compelled to share because my daughter shared one with me. It's on the wall of her math teacher's room, and that is 5 out of 4 people don't understand fractions. That's a good one. And then my personal favorite is 5 out of 5 apes agree bananas are delicious. That was an Onion headline years ago, but it stuck with me. It's so funny.
So what are the things that fascinate you in the world? Like, what's something that you like? If someone said, "Listen, I need you to talk for 20 minutes right now," that you could talk about for 20 minutes.
There's a lot. Me and a friend last year made a presentation just for fun about all the things that we hate about the show Riverdale.
Okay, yeah.
So I feel like
And you did that just for fun.
just for fun. It's like 59 slides of just
Wow.
like everything we don't like
Okay.
about it.
So are you a fan of traditional Archie comics? Like, is that the first thing, or
Here's the thing. I was a big fan of the first season of Riverdale.
okay?
And so then I went out and bought some Archie comics. And then like
This isn't right.
Yeah.
and then we got to like the third season of Riverdale and then they did a musical episode and then I was like, I'm absolutely done with this. And then I checked back in last year and I was like, so I've never really like read them.
Everybody does a musical episode, though, right? Doesn't every show eventually do a
There was,
musical
like,
episode?
there was like a time where like Grey's Anatomy did one once
Buffy.
upon a time. Yeah, like I feel like
Moonlighting, in the
Scrubs.
80s.
there was just like a big period in I think like 2016, 2017 where they were like super popular. Like everyone was doing them.
Which is funny because Glee had already been off the air for
Yeah.
several years.
And then Riverdale was just kind of like, we're gonna do it every season. Like they have starting season 2, they have one every season. And it's just kind of like, why are you like the first one was fine, and then they got to the second one, and I was just kind of like, you don't need to do that, because like I feel like I listened to that and I could peel back the auto tune. Like I could reach through the screen of my phone and just peel the layers of auto tune, and I was like, I don't need to listen to this.
There was a local band here comprised of 2 female lead singers, Betty and Veronica. And they got a cease and desist letter from the owners of Archie Comics after, like, and they weren't big, right? They were playing local bars and stuff like that. And a friend of mine was Veronica in that band, and she was devastated because she thought she had been putting something together that was like a love piece. You know, they weren't just songs about Archie; they were just all types of songs. But that's interesting. So, will you do a podcast about Riverdale and how much it sucks?
No, not Riverdale. My idea came after me and my roommate watched the Teen Wolf movie.
Oh yeah,
And
okay. I'm
so-
in, fully invested.
The original Teen Wolf?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
50% interest.
The one, the one that just came out like
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, and my idea is that I'm gonna, not that movie specifically, but probably that movie, and because I didn't like it at all, and just all the things that I would change about it that would make it so much better than it actually
As
was.
part of your research, watch the original Teen Wolf movie.
And then watch Teen Wolf 2, just
Yes.
on as a side
Right.
project.
Okay.
No. It's with Jason Bateman.
Oh, you're
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, I look forward to listening to your Teen Wolf podcast.
Thank you.
I'm not even kidding.
Well, it goes with your wolf shirt.
Yeah, right? That is
All
full
that.
circle right there.
All that. Thank you, Maggie. All right, we're going to make it. We got one.
Lone wolf.
Ellie's coming right up. We're going to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Ellie. Okay. Yeah. we even squeezed a Mad Men reference into the show today.
Ellie, welcome to JJ Meets World.
Thank you.
Are you intimidated by the microphone?
A little, maybe.
That's all right. If anyone tells you, like, hey, listen, it's no big deal, don't worry about it. Like, the number one fear of Americans is public speaking. 2 is death.
Oh.
Meaning you'd rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy.
Yeah, right now.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Fantastic. Well, we'll
I
make this
hate
as
talking
painless
in
as
front of
possible.
people.
Do you really?
Yeah, I'm very shy.
Oh, well, don't worry. It's going super well so far. Just great.
Okay.
So what are you studying?
I'm a communications major right now, but I've been thinking of adding in like art and design, maybe a minor, because I'm kind of interested in graphic design. Yeah.
I mean, that's, in all honesty, that is the type of skill set that looks good on a resume for any position.
Yeah.
Right. So like someone who can come in and can look at the aesthetics of something. So even a presentation, like everything from a PowerPoint all the way to, gosh, did we put this, flyer together correctly? I mean, that is a pro skill that companies want and need.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Pelican Rapids.
Pelican
I
Rapids.
love Pelican Rapids. They're fixing up Pete right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's getting a makeover.
Getting a huge makeover.
Yeah.
Pelican Rapids has two of the best Mexican restaurants I've ever been to in my
Chavez
life.
and
I've
in
been to
the
one of
same
those
town.
two. I've been to one of those two.
Have you? Oh, they're so good. They're so
Escobar's?
good.
The one that's
Chavez.
on the corner, but where the gas station was. Do you know what I'm talking about? On the main corners you
Oh,
come
yep,
in off
yep,
of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you ever been to Earhart, Minnesota?
Oh, yeah.
Just hop, skip, and jump. My Uncle Wally was mayor for 35 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No term limits there.
Nope, none whatsoever. In fact, he at the last 2 times, he's like, I don't even want to run. And they're like, Wally, no one else wants to do it.
No one wants
He's
to
a
be
real
mayor of
Cincinnatus. Yeah, gets called up for duty from his farm.
And his job was he hauled horses for people. So he's a professional horse hauler. And when my aunt married him, it was her second marriage. In my life, I probably heard Wally say 7 words total. And I kid you not. Like, this guy just he wasn't a talker, right? He'd be like, hey, Wally, Merry Christmas. And he'd be like, mm-hmm. Until the day I asked him about being mayor, and he lit up like a firecracker. And the dude was talking about well water needs versus city water needs. And he just went to town. And he said all the mayors in that area knew each other really well, so because they shared a lot of resources, right? So if there's a fire in Earhart, Pelican Rapids would send a response, right?
Yeah.
So I find Pelican Rapids to be a great little town. I go through there all the time, right?
I don't mind it.
Yeah. At one point, I remember driving through and being like, do they need a tanning salon in Pelican Rapids?
I know. There's a lot of random stuff, I feel like.
Right,
There used to be a bowling alley. That's gone, though.
Really?
Yeah.
I never visited the bowling alley. There's still
I
a
neither.
youth center, isn't there?
I don't think so.
Oh, there was. When my friend Mike Schultz, his folks have a cabin on South Lida.
Oh, yep.
And so I've eaten at Maple Beach.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do better than a Maple Beach burger.
Yeah.
But we went by. He took pictures of my children in front of this youth center,
Oh.
pool hall kind of thing.
Well, then it has
was-
to be there.
I don't know. It was just this last summer.
Oh.
I mean,
Sorry, I derailed.
They did great
derailed.
things with community dollars down there, right? They're like, we'll just keep people here.
Well,
for
they
them.
have they have the artistically painted pelicans everywhere.
yep.
That's true.
In town. I love those.
Yeah.
What do you think of pelicans?
I've never thought in depth about them, I guess.
Really?
No.
Yeah, your town's all about it. Your hometown's all about it.
I know. They're
What-
not our mascot, though, for school. We were
Which
the
is
Vikings.
weird, right?
so
I know.
Yeah.
And also, when is the cease and desist from that going to come up? Because I feel like for a while they were just taking the Vikings logo.
I know. Yeah.
Do they? The school does? You're positive. Okay. Tucker's saying, yep. What's your podcast?
So mine's kind of boring. So if you guys have
Oh,
any
don't
better.
lead with
no,
that,
it's
Ellie.
meditation.
Oh, but that's not boring.
So-
I find meditation
I
not
was
at all
thinking,
boring.
yeah, maybe an office meditation thing to do on your break or something, because that makes it a little more
Yes.
different. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the works of David Lynch, the filmmaker? Because he's a massive proponent of transcendental meditation.
Oh.
And I've been learning more about it just because of him. So, I mean, I know in meditation there's different kinds. Is there a certain particular form or flavor of meditation that interests
So
you?
actually, I've only meditated once. So I kind of want to do it because I want to get into it.
Sure.
Because I know it has a lot of benefits. So I thought this would be a good way, I don't know, to try and get into it.
Put it behind a paywall and get one group that does anger management to get behind it, and they assign that podcast to people who've punched holes in the drywall at work.
Yeah.
And you're gonna make $1 million.
Perfect.
Awesome. Hey, thanks to
We
everybody.
did
Thank
it.
you very much. This has
Lone
been real.
Wolves and Mother Sauces all the way.
Yeah. JJ
Great
Meets
job.
World is found on all the great podcast spots, including something on Microsoft. Like if you play Xbox, you can find it. But Spotify, iTunes. I think we're on Audible now, I saw. So we're all over the place. At the very least, just give me a 5-star. You don't have to listen to anything, but a 5-star review helps.
Sound like an Uber.
Thank you, JJ.
That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. Man, that kid who is big into wrestling, he wears glasses, and my whole thought was like, can I see your goggles?